Do you think glamping's a trend?
I think it's kind of just the next evolution of camping. The opportunity to go out into nature with that added luxury and sense of experience. I don't think that's a fad. I think it's just a pretty cool thing that people have realized they can do. Find a kind of a way to tell your story via social media, or have a really, really good website, or create a particularly cool experience that people are happy, want to experience and share with their friends and get people along. So there's all sorts of ways to adapt other than your core product. One reason why we're going so big on it is we're catching the right demographic. It's very popular with millennials. Obviously, that's a pretty big demographic that will have a pretty big say over the culture over the next few decades. So far, Skyreed isn't on Airbnb, but I did actually email our partners the other day saying, is this something we should think about?
Nick, why are you betting so big on glamping with Posh?
A few reasons, really. And one I would say, before going too deep into the answer is I use the term glamping pretty liberally. I use it to describe anything from bell tents in a field all the way to high-end cabins, and I would include, I don't know if your listeners or readers know kind of Live Oak Lake by Isaac French or Onera by Ben Wolfe. I would include those in the definition. So when I say glamping, I also mean kind of boutique outdoor luxury lodging, micro resorts, etc. And so I think one reason why we're going so big on it is we're catching the right demographic. It's very popular with millennials. Obviously, that's a pretty big demographic that will have a pretty big say over the culture over the next few decades. They love the experiential aspects. They love the opportunity to reconnect with nature. A great way of advertising or marketing these resorts is through social media, and obviously they're pretty tuned into that as well, Instagram particularly. So that's one big reason, is you're capturing a major demographic that's going to be pretty influential over the next 10, 20, 30 years, and or also coming into more money as well. The other is, the economics of the business make a lot of sense and are, ludicrously good if you do it right, particularly compared to other real estate asset classes. So, I'm no real estate expert, but for example, at Posh, kind of projected payback time on our units is like a 30% yield on cost, which is pretty decent. I'm led to believe in the real estate world. And so, you look at Live Oak Lake sold for $7 million with 7 keys. Onera, Ben sold 90% of that for $6.3 million with 11 keys. The ROI and exit potentials are pretty good. And that's obvious when you look at, the build costs, particularly if you're building modular, versus the daily rates that you can charge. And, you're not having to build a hotel or anything like that. It just makes a lot of sense as a business model. And then specifically with Posh Outdoors, we're obviously doing the revenue share model where we will partner with a landowner or send them units. They'll put them on their property. They run things on the ground and we split the revenue. The beauty of that model is it's very, very scalable. It took, Under Canvas, one of the glamping pioneers, years and years to build. I think it took them 8 years to build 8 seasonal locations. Whereas with the rev share model, we don't have to go out and buy land and title every time. We partner with landowners and we can scale it as basically as quickly as we get the capital. So we're super big on the revenue share model because it's so scalable and it works so nicely with all the stuff I've just mentioned.
Do you think glamping's a trend at all?
No, I don't. I think it's kind of just the next evolution of camping. The opportunity to go out into nature with that added luxury and sense of experience. I don't think that's a fad. I think it's just a pretty cool thing that people have realized they can do. So no, I think we're 5 years on from the pandemic now, and there's obviously highs and lows during and after that, but certainly in the US and Canada, I think it's going to be a thing for a long time, and obviously that's why we're betting on it.
Do you so for the rental operators that kind of own your standard cabin in the woods sort of deal that might get hurt by this glamping revolution if it continues to get bigger and bigger and more popular? Is there anything that these rental operators who own just the cabin, is there anything that they can learn from this glamping revolution, such as should I get more creative or make things simpler? Like, what do you think people can learn?
Yeah, I think when you kind of talk about people or industries being left behind, you kind of have the idea that they don't change anything else around what they're doing to to keep up with the time. So they may have a crappy website from 2008 still. They might have no social media. So I think even if you don't have these super modern, super unique luxury structures that people are bringing to the market now, I still think you can do more than well with something more traditional. If you, for example, find a kind of a way to tell your story via social media, or have a really really good website, or create a particularly cool experience that people are happy, want to experience and share with their friends and get people along. So there's all sorts of ways to adapt other than your core product. And I see no reason why people can't do that. It's just if you kind of have maybe a slightly older product coupled with not updating your marketing or your storytelling or the experience, and I think that's probably where you're at real risk of being left behind.
We're seeing a lot in the agency with our specifically our more unique properties they're not really near anything interesting. As far as like a large tourist attraction, you do you analyze search volume and you try to figure out like, are people even looking for places near this town? And more times than not, the answer is no. And so most of the guests with these specific properties, they'll go to the property for the sake of going to the property. Are you seeing the same thing with glamping? Like, do you have to be in a large touristy spot in order to have a successful glamp ground, or will people just glamp for the purpose of glamping?
No, I think if you're within 3 hours, let's say, driving distance of a major metropolitan area, then you can be the destination. It's like a weekend break or a week break for city goers. So you absolutely can do fine. I think for Posh, personally, we want to make things as easy as possible for ourselves and give ourselves as little heavy lifting as we have to. So if we can get to a tourist hotspot, then we will. Again, we partner with existing operations like, for example, ski resorts or wineries or ranches where people already come and visit. Again, we want to do as little heavy lifting as possible and make it as easy to fill those units as possible. So if I were, if I were to give advice based on what we're doing, it would be make your life as easy as possible. However, again, there's no kind of hard and fast rule. You absolutely can do really well. I look at Bolt Farm Treehouse is a really really good glamping resort. I'd probably say they're probably the best operators out there, and they're kind of they're not. I think they're maybe a couple of hours from some decent sized cities, but they're certainly not in some major tourist hotspot. They've just got a really nice property, really good units, and they tell their story so brilliantly well that they're constantly full and they're making a shit ton of money. So you don't have to be kind of 10 minutes from a world attraction or anything like that.
You just brought up Posh, and so I'm super curious. What are you guys? I want to start with your vision. So what's your guys' vision? I know you just raised like $500,000. Where do you see Posh going in the glamping space?
Yeah, so we've been doing a We Fund Our Community round. So anyone can invest for as little as $100, and that's not a hard sell because the round will have closed by the time this goes out. What we've been kind of shooting for is, in the next 3 to 5 years, we want to do 25 locations of 15 units on average at each location. It's ambitious, but if the capital's there, we absolutely can do it. I own a glamping consultancy. I've got a newsletter and a podcast, and that's a decent audience of prospective or existing operators with beautiful properties. My business partner Edward Haynes has got some fantastic land options in the ski resorts and all sorts of other kind of outdoor resorts who he speaks to through his business. So we've got an amazing pipeline of future land partners. So that's really not going to be an issue. All we need really is the capital to scale it. So we envision, as I say, kind of we're partnering with these existing resorts. We want to add that kind of unique accommodation element to that resort. So, some mirror cabins or tube structures in a ski resort, for example, we think would do fantastically well with the existing demand, and you add that unique element as well. So we kind of want to, we're doing this smaller community round to get this first location up and running. Then we got to get maybe 2 more locations up and running with later community rounds or debt. And then we want to do a larger, more institutional raise where, we can really, really start to scale this out. And as I say, kind of reach that pipeline of 25 locations within 5 years. And that's something that we really do think is achievable if we can get the capital piece pulled off.
How are you guys handling guest acquisition? What's your marketing approach?
Yeah. So first location is we partner with the resort's called Skyridge Glamping. The operators behind that had already built and sold a glamping business out on the east coast of Canada. So they're experienced operators. They're already pretty far down the line in terms of developing their brand and marketing strategies by the time we signed that deal. So to begin with, they're handling all of that for themselves. Like, I'm kind of helping with the launch campaign and a few other bits and bobs, but generally that's being done in-house by our partners. For future locations, though, it's going to be pretty important to us that we do the social media marketing, the kind of revenue management, and all that kind of back end stuff as well. The plan is to use Ben Wolf's company, Stay Oasi. Ben's on our board, and we think he's the best in the business. So generally, the approach will be, send someone to the site kind of 2-3 times a year, batch produce a load of Instagram reels, post them throughout the year, kind of that whole strategy, increase the prices when a reel does really well, etc., along with kind of some other, we're working on some brand ideas for Posh as a brand. So, that might involve kind of a consumer facing newsletter as well. But the bulk of our revenue we expect to be generated by those kind of Instagram reel first social media strategies.
Yeah, man, that's what we're seeing too. And honestly, what we're focusing on more and more is just driving guest acquisition through social media. It's just working so well. And you have more of an opportunity. Go ahead.
I say, especially with a unique property or unique structures, it kind of sells itself really. If you have someone, as long as you have someone who knows what they're doing when they know what to capture and how to caption it and all that stuff, like, it is a bit of an art and a science. But yeah, it sells itself if you know what you're doing and you have that unique property.
Well, one thing you have above, like search marketing, like Google ads, like people can, follow you for like 2 years and still have the intent to book. Whereas if they find you on search, like, yeah, their intent might be a little bit higher. Like, they actually might be wanting to book, but you don't have any like middle funnel action that they can take. Like, they can't follow you. Sure, they can join your email list, but I'd argue that's more of like a steeper middle tier action to take. So that's why I'm so pro social. It's like there's just more levels of engagement somebody can take, levels of commitment, maybe.
And it's more emotive as well, right? You see a stunning reel of an amazing property or a really unique unit. I think that can capture people so much better than if you're effectively searching comparative options on Google, right? I think you can engage so much more with that potential guest through social media than, say, just a listing that you paid to be at the top of. Basically, I'm not saying it can't work, but I completely agree. Kind of that's to me why social first is so important in this niche industry.
Are you going to go on Airbnb, or are you going to try to go 100% direct?
So far, Skyridge isn't on Airbnb, but I did actually email our partners the other day saying, is this something we should think about? Because, in my view, if you're not 100% occupancy, then you might as well exhaust all channels. So not currently. I think we certainly, the plan is very much be direct booking centric. That's where we're going to invest our time and our money into. And yeah, I think that's absolutely the way to go for properties like ours. But I do imagine, unless we're at 95% occupancy, we probably will throw a few listings on there as well.
Might as well, right?
Yeah, I'd see how it goes.
This is a topic I don't know a whole lot about. I saw you had a LinkedIn post, and you said you got like $100,000 in booking receipts. Like, I'd imagine those are just pre-bookings.
So we're
yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna say, walk me through that, because that's a very interesting topic I don't know a lot about.
Yeah, so we're on track to do, as say, 100,000 US of booking receipts. I think it's going to be comfortably more than that. So we are using a method that a few people in this space have used as well. Basically, we're running meta ads using renderings of what we're using mirror cabins at the first location, Skyridge Glamping. So we've got renderings of what they'll look like on the property. Running meta ads on those saying, these units are opening soon, reserve your spot today. The call to action is initially it just goes to a landing page where they can give their email, and then when they give their email, the call to action is to place a deposit to one, get first access to the booking calendar, and two, get a discount on a multi-night stay when the booking calendar opens. So those people who pay that deposit, and we're charging $35 Canadian, the first sites in Canada, we call them Skyridge VIPs. They get added to kind of a Facebook group where there's a bit of a community building. They're obviously on an email list, and they will be booking to stay at Skyridge, probably in the calendar, probably open to them in about, well, it'll probably be open by the time this episode comes out. And so kind of we are on, as of today, 966 VIPs. I think we're probably going to be at about 1,300 by the time we open the calendar to them. One thing it's done is we've barely spent much at all on getting those VIPs because the deposits have almost cover the ad spend. I think we're obviously charging $35 for a deposit. I think we're on an average cost per deposit of $40. So it's barely anything. And the other thing is, so we're kind of projecting 10% of VIPs will go on to actually make the booking. We think that's probably actually pretty conservative, given how other campaigns have done. And we think, minimum stay is going to be 2 nights. I think it's going to be about $1,500 Canadian dollars per booking. So we're on track to do comfortably over 100K, based on those assumptions. And those assumptions, as I say, are pretty conservative, and we've looked at a lot of other campaigns that have done similar. So I'm hopeful we'll do kind of 150, 200K US by the time we open the calendar to them. If you follow my LinkedIn, you'll probably know by now, by the time this episode goes out. So we'll see. But yeah, kind of the whole idea is minimal ad spend because the deposits cover the ad costs. And you build up this community and this hype around a launch, and then you open the calendar to that community, and hopefully they go and book, and you make loads of money.
Did you choose to charge for the VIP ticket? Like, did you choose to charge for it for any reason other than to cover the ad spend?
Yeah, I mean, we're working with an agency called Launch Boom who have done a few of these before, and yeah, it's their standard policy. One, it is. Well, really, it's more to kind of get that qualified lead. I suppose you call them a lead. So people, have some kind of investment, and so they're more likely to go on a book. I think it's pretty standard kind of marketing funnel kind of thing. But yeah, the side benefit is, and in most cases, so this agency will usually work with just physical products that are, being crowdfunded, and usually it'll just be a $1 deposit. But I think somewhere along the line they figured out, well, if you charge a $30 or $50, that's even more qualified, and it's probably going to cover your ad spend or come close to it. So dual benefits, really.
Nick, thank you so much for the time today.
No problem.
Where should people go if they want to learn more about you?
Yeah, so I have a newsletter called the Glamping Insider, which Scott has actually sponsored in the past, so thank you for that. And it's deep dives into, it's a mixture of things, really. It focuses on glamping and outdoor hospitality. It's everything from, I know a lot of operators, and I get the inside track on what it's like being an operator and things they learn, things that go wrong, etc. So kind of a deep dive on, last week it was on kind of how basically every successful operator that messed up along the way, and things didn't go right, and so it's pretty normal that things don't go right, so don't be discouraged. We've done editions on guest books, on the best resources to follow, so it's kind of basically whatever's in my head that week, really. And as Posh develops, it will be more kind of, this is what we're doing, this is what we did right, this is what we did wrong, and just sharing kind of the inside track on what it's like being an operator. So yeah, go and subscribe to that. I assume Scott's going to put a link somewhere. And the other thing is, we will probably have opened up our second, or preparing to open up our second round of kind of crowdfunding investment by the time this goes out. So I imagine we'll have some kind of waiting list or expression of interest list. So if that does exist, then I imagine Scott might put a link in there as well.
And I'll vouch for the newsletter too. Yeah, I read it every week. It's amazing. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a sponsor twice a year. I genuinely do love it.
Thank you. That's another few dollars knocked off your next ad cost, Scott, don't we?
Yes. All right, Nick. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cheers.